Arakaki and Ruiz now! Arakaki and Ruiz now!
I want to welcome you all here today in front of the U.S. Federal Building in San Francisco. We're here today to show our solidarity for Cesar Arakaki and Daniel Ruiz, who have been charged, framed up for attacking policemen. It was actually a lie in Argentina. And we are demanding that the government drop their charges against these brothers, these comrades, and that they be freed. And part of the attack on them is that they were actually organizing with large numbers of Argentinians against the privatization of the pension system. And this privatization of the pension system in Argentina is part and parcel of the attack working people are facing, not just in Argentina, but right here in the United States, where they're trying to privatize Medicare in New York and attacking workers, public workers, Medicare. So we are demanding that they be freed, the government be freed. Also, we're protesting the U.S. government, because the U.S. government itself has been involved in the military coup in Argentina, the murder, assassination of trade unionists in Argentina. Also at Ford, they work with the Ford bosses, and the Ford bosses were actually put on trial for being involved in the murder and kidnapping of trade unionists at the Ford factory. So we're, the U.S. government and the Argentinian government are together in attacking the democratic worker rights of the Argentinians. So we believe that the attack on the Argentinian comrades has to be opposed internationally, because it's not just an attack on them. What they want to do is they want to terrorize the Argentinian working class. They want to tell workers that they shouldn't protest against the attack on these workers. Now, what is the Argentinian government? Perona's government. No, he's with us. Yeah, Gabriel. He's from El Salvador. El Salvador, is the same problem with U.S. government intervention, you know, as far as the military repression and assassination. So what is going on in Argentina? American workers don't get the real story of what's happened in Argentina. Argentina is being faced a massive economic crisis. The capitalists in Argentina want to privatize the entire economy. There's hunger in Argentina, and in Argentina, the working class is fighting back. There's a United Left grouping in Argentina that ran in the last election, received over 1 million votes. And the Perona's government, which pretends to be supportive of the people, is not really that. It represents the capitalist class. So what is the United States doing? We're here at the U.S. Federal Building in San Francisco. What is the United States doing? The United States, through the IMF and the World Bank, is actually imposing economic austerity. They're demanding that the Argentinian government and Argentinian people accept austerity, accept the destruction of their public services in order to get more loans. And they're in debt to the IMF. What is the IMF, the International Monetary Fund? Well, the IMF imposes privatization and austerity globally. They demand that governments, if they want to get more money, have to shut down public services, have to privatize. Now, we're right here in the middle of a pandemic in the United States and in the world. In a pandemic, do you shut down hospitals? That's what the IMF is doing. They're demanding that hospitals be shut down. Do you privatize education and public services? That's what the IMF is demanding. So this IMF is a pernicious, reactionary agency controlled by the U.S. government. They control the IMF, and they go around the world demanding that the industries be privatized. Now, who does that benefit? Well, it benefits private capitalists. For example, in Turkey, they privatized the postal system. And Terry Eagleton, who was the Secretary of State of the United States government, bought their telecom system. So who benefits by privatization? It's billionaires in the United States go to these countries and then buy up at dirt cheap prices their natural resources. The same has happened in Mexico with NAFTA and privatization. The mines mines, the airlines, the transportation system. Public services have been bought by American capitalists, billionaires. They privatized the Mexican economy like they want to privatize the Argentinian economy. So this is an international struggle. This is a global struggle, and the working people in the United States are supporting the brothers in Argentina. We're saying free Arakaki and Ruiz. Free them now. Hands off them. They're working class prisoners, and they need to be freed. And we in the United States also have political prisoners like Mumia Abu-Jamal, like Kevin Cooper, who are in prison and who are speaking out against imperialism. Mumia Abu-Jamal is, and Leonard Peltier, others around the world, in Japan. Osaka and other prisoners. So there's George Avulak in France. So this is an international struggle, and we really need an international labor organization, international labor defense organization globally that links up working class prisoners around the world. This is the kind of action we need globally. This has to be organized in the unions. The workers in this country need to do that. Now, the last point I'm going to make is about the role of the trade union bureaucracy, because unfortunately the trade union bureaucracy in the United States is helping Trump. They helped Trump. They were silent when Trump was launching these racist attacks, when Trump was calling the journalists scum, and I'm in the journalist union. The union bureaucracy did not want to confront him, and they don't want to stop the rise of fascism. And in the United States, fascism is growing, and there may be another coup. They may take over the government, and this is a danger to the working class in the United States. We had a rally here. The United Front Committee for Labor Party had a rally against an attempted coup and insurrection, because we need a united front. We need to unite workers around the world against the rise of fascism on a class basis. That's critical for the working class. And this trade union bureaucracy, the AFL-CIO, work with the CIA. The Solidarity Center is in Argentina and many other countries, collaborating with the capitalists, collaborating with the trade union bureaucracy, not to build independent unions, but to keep capitalist relations. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a workers' world where workers run things, workers run the world instead of the capitalists. The capitalists are creating austerity in the middle of a pandemic. They refuse to provide vaccines to Africa and many other countries. Why? For profit. That's all these basically bloodsuckers and gangsters care about, and that is more profiteering, making money off of health care. In the United States, right here, they're homeless. There are thousands of homeless people in San Francisco, in a city with over 71 billionaires. You have homeless people, you have people who can't get health care, you have people who can't survive in the streets of San Francisco because the capitalists run it. The Democratic Party, supported by the trade union bureaucracy, run San Francisco and run Chicago and run New York and run Atlanta and run cities all over this country. Who do they represent? Oakland. They represent the capitalists, the billionaires. That's why with all the billionaires in San Francisco, 70 billionaires, you still have homeless people. They're trying to shut down City College. They're laying off faculty. They're closing the ESL programs. They even tried to close the nursing program in the middle of a pandemic. How could that be that a college management, the administration, would try to shut down a nursing program in the middle of a pandemic? Why? Because they want to privatize it. They want to force people to pay to go to nursing school. They shut down an aircraft maintenance program at the airport, SFO, where students could go for free. And they shut that down because they want to build a private, for-profit maintenance training facility. This is what capitalism is doing. This is what workers have to fight in Argentina, in the United States, and around the world. So solidarity and free Arakaki and Ruiz. Demand their freedom now. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Hello, everybody. We're here demonstrating in front of this federal United States building, symbol of imperialism and dominion around the world. And we are here demonstrating in solidarity with a few Argentinian political prisoners. This activist, Cesar Arakaki from the Workers' Party, and Daniel Ruiz from the Partido Socialista de los Trabajadores Unificados of Argentina, were arrested in a demonstration in 2017 when the government of the Juntos por el Cambio, supposedly Together for Change, led by the neoliberal lackey of the IMF and the World Bank, Mauricio Macri, which at the same time is a prominent capitalist in Argentina. So these comrades were demonstrating against austerity measures. The Argentinian government was cutting funds in terms of retirement funds. They were attempting to drive already poor people into more misery and hardships. Also, at that demonstration, there were 300,000 people demonstrating, and then the government, with all the intention in the world, they charge against where the comrades of the Partido Obrero and other organizations were gathered together during the rally, and they start beating people up. So it was a police riot, really, what happened. The police, with all the intention in the world, they went and started beating up activists, and then arrested Cesar Arakaki, which is also an actor in Argentina, and Daniel Ruiz. Obviously, this has an intention. This is to send a signal to Argentinian militants, to workers that want to demonstrate against the Argentinian capitalist class and against the policies of the imperialist powers, most prominent the United States, but also the European Union. Argentina is exploited dramatically by the United States. You know, American multinational corporations are there exploiting workers. European companies, the same thing. The most prominent banks and financial institutions that are reigning over Argentina are from the United States, Germany, Spain, and France, and they are blood-sucking the labor power of Argentinian workers. So we're gonna also throw to the garbage right here a few myths that are around the world. One is the myth of Peronism. You know, people think that Peronism is a progressive current, a progressive political current, which is not. It's a current that does class collaboration, that ties the workers to the capitalists. During the Peronist governments, ever since the military government came down, they have indebted the country. They have privatized the economy, starting by one sinister individual called Carlos Saúl Menem, which was an Argentinian president that was hand in hand with the IMF, the World Bank, and the American and European capitalists, practically privatizing everything that they could. So then it came all these neoliberals, and then Nestor Kirchner, a Peronist, came to power in Argentina, promising a lot of things that he could not deliver. Why? Because he was a capitalist politician. And him and then his wife, who succeeded him in the presidency, they pay the IMF huge amounts of dollars to satisfy the appetites of the big financial monopolies. So they also gave foreign companies the right to do fracking in Argentina, to mess around with the environment. The Peronist hypocrites, they came to power and they kept the same trumped-up charges against Cesar and against Daniel. and they now are going to meet with the IMF in Buenos Aires, and they are coming with a plan to give away money that he has been earned with a lot of difficulties by the Argentinian capitalists. They are going to give that money to out of the pension plans, out of public works, out of public health, out of public education to the World Bank and the IMF. That's what is doing the current puppet buffoon man that is running Argentina. His name is Alberto Fernandez. That not only the Peronists are doing this to the workers. In southern Argentina, there was an uprising by the Mapuche indigenous people because they are sick and tired of being oppressed for centuries. And what the Alberto Fernandez Peronist government has done, he sent the police and the so-called security forces to fight the Mapuches, to oppress the Mapuches, which are sick and tired of oppression. They are sick and tired of being second-class citizens. So, it's a myth that Peronism is a friend of the working class. They're nothing but nothing that class colaborators, that lackeys for the IMF and the World Bank. Why Cesar Arakaki and Daniel Ruiz were arrested? They are arrested and they are facing 3.5 years by Cesar Arakaki and 3 years of imprisonment because the Argentinian capitalists, they fear the power of the working class. They fear that hundreds of thousands of Argentinian workers have demonstrated against their policies of austerity, of hunger, of oppression. In the last legislative elections, the parties that made the Frente Izquierda de los Trabajadores, Unidad, the United Workers United Front, Unity, they gained over 1 million votes altogether around the country, and they were able to elect 4 members to the Argentinian parliament, including one poor sanitation worker in the province of Jujuy, which is habitated, it has a lot of indigenous habitants over there. So the Argentinian bourgeoisie and the American capitalists and European imperialists, they feel the growth of these revolutionary organizations. They are trembling because they know that they can be swept out of power. They fear to lose their privileges. They are nothing, the Argentinian capitalists, but crocodiles and bloodsuckers that act at the behest of American companies and American banks. So I want to end by saying, free Cesar Arakaki, free Daniel Ruiz, free all Argentinian political prisoners. Drop the charges now for an international workers' revolution. Thank you.
Hola, solo quería mostrar mi total apoyo y solidaridad con Daniel Ruiz y Cesar Arakaki. Demandamos la inmediata retirada de todos los cargos y que no entren en prisión. Desde luego son inocentes, son trabajadores que se manifestaron en contra de reformas muy reaccionarias, en contra de las pensiones de los trabajadores argentinos, y demandamos su inmediata solución y su inmediata liberación de todos los cargos contra ellos. Muchas gracias.
One of the issues that I alluded to earlier is the role of the AFL-CIO in the United States, because the American Institute of Free Labor Development, A-Field, supported by the CIA, was involved in organizing assassinations, setting up right-wing unions throughout Central and Latin America, and even in Mexico. And right now there's a struggle in the United States, and the unions were beginning to struggle to demand that the AFL-CIO Solidarity Center stop taking $75 million from the U.S. government for the Solidarity Center. Now, what was the record of this AIFLD? I just interviewed a brother, Frank Hammer, who his brother actually worked for the AIFLD in Latin America, and he was assassinated. He and another AIFLD were assassinated in El Salvador. Why were they in El Salvador? Because they were supposedly building rural unions in El Salvador, and actually that they were supporting the government and the capitalists in El Salvador. But the right-wing reactionary forces in El Salvador didn't even want that, so they were murdered. And Frank was able to see the records because he was the brother of a brother that was killed by right-wing forces in El Salvador. Was able to go to the Media Institute in Washington and look at the records. And what he found out is that the CIA and not only the AFL-CIO and the U.S. government, but the Histadrut were in El Salvador. The Histadrut was helping to train and arm trade unions in Latin America and Central America. And we also have discovered that, Ricardo, we're trying to have a rally here. Yeah. Trying to have a rally here. So we also discovered that in Mexico, the AFL-CIO had organized a bunch of gangsters to attack the Ford plant in Mexico. And they murdered and attacked the Ford workers who wanted to build an independent union. So what we have in the United States is U.S. imperialism in alliance with the trade union bureaucracy is actually operating internationally around the world to attack workers' rights, to assassinate workers. They have blood on their hands. These union bureaucrats in the United States and the AFL-CIO in supporting, working at the Solidarity Center, working with the U.S. government, have blood on their hands. And American trade unions, American workers have to expose this and have to demand that workers have real international solidarity with the workers in Argentina, with the workers in Mexico, with the workers in Turkey, with the workers around the world. That means fighting U.S. multinationals. And another example is in Colombia, where right now there's an encampment of injured GM workers at Bogota, the consulate. Why are they at the American embassy? Because General Motors has basically injured these workers and refuses to compensate them. So they're having an encampment right in Bogota at the U.S. embassy. And what are they demanding? They're demanding that GM compensate them. Now what has happened is the UAW bureaucracy actually supported GM management. They were on the board of directors of GM, and they said, don't worry about these workers. Screw these workers. That was the UAW bureaucracy. On top of that, the Solidarity Center, which is in Colombia, is giving reports about the struggle in Colombia, so-called the labor struggles in Colombia, but then not one word about the GM workers, injured GM workers who were outside the U.S. Embassy. Isn't it strange that the Solidarity Center, which says it's for solidarity and is in Colombia, is not reporting on the encampment of the GM workers in Colombia? Why is that? Because the Solidarity Center is a tool of U.S. imperialism. That's why. And we have to expose that, we have to fight that, we have to organize internationally. American workers need to unite with the workers in Argentina. They need to unite with the workers in Turkey, with the workers in El Salvador, and in South Africa. We have to fight for internationalism, and we have to fight against U.S. imperialism. That's the responsibility of U.S. workers, and that's why we're exposing this role. United Front Committee for a Labor Party is organizing a demonstration at the AFL-CIO in April to expose and put them on trial. These bureaucrats need to be put on trial for their international crimes that they're doing around the world. They're doing it in the name of the workers of the United States, but in reality, they're crimes for U.S. corporations and the billionaires right here in San Francisco. So it's time to build solidarity. It's time to free Arakaki and Ruiz. We're demanding that they be free now, and we're going to take this struggle forward in the labor movement. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you. Free Arakaki, free Ruiz.
Free Arakaki and Ruiz now.